Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Culture Cast. I'm Chris Dashew, and I am joined. So which of the Super Troopers are you? If you associate with one, Eric, who is the one that you are? I'm curious.
That's a good question.
Because I kind of have my answer
of who you think that I am.
Yeah,
I think that it either be Mac or maybe Thorny.
I'm going with Mac.
Yeah, that was my first.
But maybe maybe Thorny from the first movie.
Maybe.
Who am I?
I don't know. Take some. What is
Flova Scotia?
Flova Scotia. Oh my God.
Which one am I? Which one am I? Is the question.
I mean, isn't it obvious? Farva.
Oh, fuck you. I sure hope not.
I don't know. Who do you think that you are? Maybe Foster? Or Rabbit?
I always see myself as Foster. Like, his character in the movie is just the one that I always identify with.
Yeah.
The scene in the first film where he's like, oh, bikers. Like, I feel like that's just me to a T.
Yeah.
Also, oh my God, it's so veiny. It's like a booth. Like that for me, like that scene just like crystallized it for me.
Yeah.
If you don't know what we're talking about, we're going to be talking about a film that's 17 years in the making, funded on crowdfunding, $2 million in 24 fucking hours, $4.7 million overall. We're going to be talking about Super Troopers 2.
1, 2, 3, let's do it!
They've been waiting for a second chance. Waiting for their country to need them again. That time is meow.
What do you guys give me if I kill that bird? Farva, that's a bald eagle. Get a wing, Baldy! Yeah! Guys, what do I win?
A one-way ticket to hell.
It turns out the French-Canadian town, Saint-Georges-du-Laurent, is actually on American soil. You'll be phasing out a Canadian Mountie unit.
Best behavior, boys.
Not our idea of a good time either, fellas. Personally, I'd rather fuck a moose.
You would need a ladder to do that.
Wow.
Let's give a big Canadian welcome to the Vermont Highway Patrol.
Come on, guys. They've come up here to tell us how great it's going to be for all of us to become Americans.
Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Learn the words.
This is happening.
Est-ce que vous savez à quelle vitesse vous allez?
Do neither of you speak English?
I do. We would like to eat your papers.
Can you show me your party papers?
This time everything will be by the book. Everything.
What the fuck are you guys doing? Hey, Tim Horton's ghost!
What can I get for you guys? Cold beer? Liter of cola?
What did you say?
Do you want a liter of cola?
Canada's pretty awesome.
Boop, boop. Don't do that.
Boop, 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 boop.
Should I shoot him?
Who? Farva?
Frère Jacques Grey pour Paul Marquis de Saturette. Feather Duster, Croissant, Les Misérables, First Catcher, Luke Robitaille, D'Artagnan, Perrier, Friend Tarkenton, Peanut Buster, Parfait. Eau de toilette. Eau de doudadin.
Film is directed again by Jay Chandrasekhar, stars the original cast of the film with some additional folks: Rob Lowe, Emmanuel Sharik, I think that's how you say her name, Tyler Labine, Will Sasso, and Hayes MacArthur show up as well with some cameos from some other people, namely Jim Gaffigan again. You also got Damon Wayans in there and Sean William Scott, along with Marissa Coughlan, who has a cameo as Ursula, which was for someone who's a fan of the first film, that was really a good cameo for me. I really enjoyed
that was a good cameo. I was glad that she was back in it. I was wondering how they were gonna like do that whole thing, so I'm glad that she was back.
And the film takes place, I'm assuming, an indeterminate amount of time past the first film where the troopers from the first film are tasked with taking over from Canadian Mounties, a town in Canada that has been kind of redistricted into the United States due to some misdistricting on the border between the United States and Canada, with some hilarious effect. So, Eric, I know that you and I are both massive fans of Super Troopers. So before I ask you what you thought of Super Troopers 2, I am curious when you saw the first film and how you saw it.
Oh,
because apparently, according to the internet, it's a fucking cult comedy still. Which I guess. I mean, I thought it was kind of mainstream. Do people who have seen it think it's mainstream and it's actually not?
Yeah, I don't think that it is. I think it's sort of like one of those things where like when it came out in theaters, like almost nobody went and saw it. And then after like a year or two, like it became that thing that got passed around like in college dorm rooms, you know, like herpes.
Well, or gonorrhea. Well, that's the thing. Reading all the interviews with them, because I want to say Rolling Stones did an oral history of the film in like 2014. They started, like, the film started taking hold 4 years after it came out theatrically, when it was on DVD.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, they're like, that's nuts, right? Like, that's insane.
Yeah. And like, I mean, by that point, like they had already done, like Club Dread had already come out in 2004.
It did it? I thought Club Dread came out in like 2000, I guess. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Club Dread was 2004. Beer Fest was 2006. And I saw Beer Fest in the theater.
So did I. Which, Beer Fest, well, we'll get to it. I'm curious kind of where Super Troopers ranks in the Broken Lizard films for you. So, but yeah, Super Troopers was their quote-unquote first theatrical film, even though technically they had a film that came out in 1996.
Yeah, definitely Super Troopers. I don't remember exactly when I saw it, but I mean, it was one of those things where I was hanging out at a buddy's house and they were like, yo, we got to watch this movie. Like, have you ever seen this? And I was like, what? No. And they're like, oh shit, we got to watch this. And it was like immediate, you know, like top of my list of the funniest things I'd ever seen in my life, you know, like quotable and memorable and just awesome.
You know, I'm kind of in the same camp. I think, actually, I know how I got Super Troopers. So there used to be a thing, and I forget what it was called, but you could swap DVDs with people. So it was
really?
So it was like a website where you signed up, and it's like, say I had Total Recall and you had, I don't know, you wanted it. So I would send it to you and you would send me something back in return. And I forget what the name of the website is, but like it was like kind of like Netflix, but you were like trading DVDs back and forth. And I used to have like a DVD like binder full of these movies, and one of them was Super Troopers. And that was how I saw Super Troopers. And it had to have been I'm going to date myself a little bit. It had to have been when I was like 13 or 14. So like, I think within 2 or 3 years of the movie coming out. And I remember watching it and on my computer that had a DVD player in the laptop. And I remember watching it and just thinking like, this is the funniest fucking movie I've ever seen. It's so irreverent in its comedy style that it works.
Yeah.
Yet like, and I know that this is something that it gets docked for, at least in some of the reviews that I've read, especially for the second film, but particularly for the first film. Like it feels like a thinly connected collection of like sketches with no plot line, which I can kind of see, especially with like when they stop people on the highway. It does kind of feel like, I don't know, it feels like sketch comedy a little bit. And that carries over into the second film. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the plot line of the movie, I think is still kind of charming in its own way.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing it when I was like 13 or 14 for sure, which would mean that I've seen this movie for half of my life. I've known about this film. But I mean, Super Troopers 1, it's one of those movies that it's up there for me for my favorite comedies. You know, everybody, And I'm sure you get this. Like, people ask you, like, what's your favorite movie? It's like, I can't answer that question because, like, what's my favorite comedy? What's my favorite horror movie? What's my favorite action movie? Because, you know, you and I watch so many movies, and, you know, we have friends who watch a lot of movies, you know, podcaster friends and normal friends, that, like, asking someone what their favorite movie is, it's like, what's your favorite band? Like, can you really have, like, one? Like, you know, the genres alone, it's like a deep dive. And, like, for me, Super Troopers is up there with my favorite comedies. It may be my favorite comedy. I'm not sure. It may be.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. It's I don't know, somewhere between Super Troopers and Beer Fest and Tropic Thunder.
All movies that kind of sort of didn't get their day when they came out. Super Troopers more than the other two. But Tropic Thunder, like, got nominated for an Oscar. But I feel like, and we've had this conversation, I feel like Tropic Thunder kind of got, like, thrown by the wayside. Like,
I don't know.
Well, people don't, like, talk about it. People aren't like, man, Tropic Thunder is really funny. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the way people talk about, like, maybe, like, 40-Year-Old Virgin or Superbad, a movie I honestly can't stand, but I know a lot of people love.
Yeah.
But I mean, Super Troopers for me it's one of those seminal films of, like, my, like, teenage years that kind of molded my kind of comedic look at the world, if that makes sense. Because, like, those the five of them together, like, they each work so well off of one another that it's just, you know, it's a hilarious movie. If you've never seen Super Troopers 1, you know, pause this podcast, go watch it.
Oh yeah, it's fucking great.
But with that being said, with us kind of fawning over Super Troopers 1, 17 years later, crowdfunding, what did you think of Super Troopers 2?
I thought it was hilarious. I was laughing my ass off. And I thought that it was like a perfect sort of next step in like the Super Troopers franchise now, I guess. They're talking about they want to do a third Super Troopers movie. So
if this movie makes enough money at the box office, which...
oh my God, there's no way that it's not going to.
By all accounts, it's made a fair amount of money. I mean, it hasn't made, you know, Marvel money, but it's made a fair amount of money. I mean, it opened nationwide, which, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if I were them, that's a success.
There's a lot of new jokes and gags and bits that are cool. They definitely harp on the whole like Canada thing a lot in this movie, which actually makes it like pretty funny because then they have all the Canadians making fun of America and the Americans making fun of Canadians, and it's sort of funny in both directions. Yeah, it's not just America ripping on Canada the entire time.
I felt like the Canadians had some like pretty good comeback.
Oh yeah. And I thought that was great. There is a lot of callbacks in this movie to the first movie, which is to sort of be expected because of how, you know, awesome the first movie was and how everybody wants to hear the jokes from the first movie.
And that's like a sequel thing, right?
Yeah.
Like with Anchorman 2, where they had like the ramping up of the news anchor fight scene, where it was like triple what it was in the first film, and it didn't really work. Like, I don't give a shit about Sacha Baron Cohen and Will Smith. Like sometimes it's best to let sleeping dogs lie. Like, that joke worked great in the first movie. You don't have to like do it again, but 3 times the factor. And that was the thing I appreciate about this movie. The references to the first movie were kind of just like it was a reference to it, but not really.
Yeah.
Like the littering and like, they reference that, but they don't directly reference it. They put like a spin on it, which I appreciated because, again, having seen Anchorman 2 or Dumb and Dumber 2, I forget what that movie's called because it's literally
Dumb and Dumberer.
It's an abortion of a film.
It's bad.
When you have those movies that just retread old ground and do the original joke to the you know, nth degree, it's like, I could just watch the first movie.
Yeah.
And I didn't walk away from this thinking that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But overall, you liked it.
Oh, yeah. No, I thought it was great.
But the real question is, do you think people who aren't fans of the first movie would enjoy it?
I don't know. My question is, if you weren't a fan of the first movie, why the fuck are you even watching the second?
Well, because this weekend, what are your options for film? Going and seeing I Feel Pretty.
Go see I Feel Pretty,
a movie that literally looks like the cinematic equivalent of a Suicide Note. Like, Amy Schumer just like gives up the movie.
Wow.
I can't stand Amy Schumer, man. Come on. Can you?
Yeah, well, I mean, neither can I, but I don't know. I just don't think she's funny, and I think this movie is just like the epitome of trying too hard. I mean, I haven't seen it, so I can't talk too much shit on it just because
I've seen the trailer. I've seen enough.
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt about it too. But I don't know. I think Super Troopers is smart, and I think that's what made the first movie great, was like the jokes. Yeah, there's a lot of like, you know, it's like college aged humor, you know, there's lots of like sort of, you know, dick and fart jokes, and
there's a ton of dick and fart jokes. There's a ton of them.
But it's also done in a way that's like smarter than your average like dick and fart joke movie. So I think these guys can really like write some stuff that's actually like worth watching. And I would actually love to see them do a third Super Troopers movie, because I think it would only get better like at that point, you know, because then you're over the 17-year hump and you're just back into, you know, like, okay, now we don't have to do as many callbacks. Now we don't have to like, you know, go back.
And what are you going to call back to the second film?
Yeah, no. What you do is you just move along with the story and just go. Like, you know, not that the story is really anything, because the story is not, it's, I mean, I don't know. It's sort of there, but it's really just there so that there's a, you know, a vehicle to move the, you know, movie along. Like, it's really just kind of pushing you from one bit to the next bit.
And that works with this film. Yeah. And there are some films that doesn't work. And there are some films that don't even need it. But I think, like I said, with, you know, like we've been saying, with Super Troopers, you kind of, like, the plot's secondary.
Yeah.
Because for me, the reason, and I loved this movie, and again, I'm a fan of the first movie, so that, you know, take my opinion with a grain of salt and a shot of penicillin. But if you like the first movie, you're probably going to like this movie. And that's kind of the thing that that's kind of the thing that I look at when we look at like comedy sequels. That, you know, we talked about Anchorman. You know, the one that I always look at that's like, what were they fucking thinking? The Hangover 2. It's the same movie, like the same movie,
exactly the same. Yeah,
and it's not great. And then they made a third one.
Oh yeah,
and I didn't even see the third one because I saw the second one and I knew what I was getting myself into.
Yeah, it's not worth checking out.
But that's the thing with Super Troopers 2, and like you said, with Super Troopers 3 possibly happening, which, I mean, fingers crossed it does, is hopefully they kind of move on from where they have been with Super Troopers 2. Which, again, they kind of had to do that with Super Troopers too. I mean, this movie was in production for 17 years, which is insane.
Almost, yeah.
They had to kind of do some of the callbacks because of, you know, who the audience is.
Yeah.
The audience is looking for some of the callbacks from the first movie.
Yeah. Well, like at this point, you kind of have to, you know, even though I could have totally lived without any callbacks and I would have been fine.
Right.
It's also just,
it was nice seeing Linda Carter as the governor again. It was it was nice seeing Marissa Coughlan as Ursula Foster's wife in this film.
Yeah.
But that's because I love those characters as well. That's the other reason.
Yeah, exactly.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, with a lot of the stuff I've been reading, a lot of the stuff that the people don't like about this film is the fact that it is so similar to the first film.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you expected. I don't know what anybody expected. It was definitely always going to be similar to the first movie. I mean, it's the same guys doing essentially the same shit that they did in the first movie, just only very slightly different. So I don't know, but yeah, it felt more mature
somehow, if that's possible.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely, I don't know it.
And this is something that we've never run into on the Culture Cast. How do you talk about a comedy? Like, oh, that one part was really funny. Like,
be like, oh, that one gag that they did was super funny.
Right, and there's a lot of stuff in this movie that's great. I mean, there are a lot of really good callbacks. There's a lot of really original new stuff, particularly a lot with Farva's character. I felt like Jay Chandrasekhar kind of got the short end of the stick in the film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he wasn't really in the movie a ton.
Right. A lot of it was given to Rabbit and Farva.
It's definitely a movie that I'm going to watch, you know, probably multiple times in the future. You know, especially when it's out on iTunes or streaming or whatever, you know, it'll be one of those movies that just like goes on, you know, in the background type of thing. Like, you know, and you don't need to pay attention to the whole movie. But then when that funny part comes up that you love, like, then you can pay attention for, you know, 5 minutes and laugh your ass off and then just go back to doing, you know, your fucking laundry or whatever.
And that's the thing that works about this movie. That's for me, it's surprising. You know, we talked about Anchorman 2, a movie that I don't remember how long long it was in between Anchormans. I feel like it was at least 5 years.
Yeah, it was a while. It was a good long while. I don't even remember Anchorman 2, to be honest.
Anchorman 2 is where he like goes blind at one point in the movie and he has like a shark that he's taking care of.
Yeah, I don't remember any of that.
Yeah, because the movie's not good. So the movie, it came out in 2014 and or 2013, and the original film came out in 2004. So it was almost a decade.
Yeah.
And that movie sucked. But that's the thing about Super Troopers 2 that's kind of surprising, is that it's a good movie if you're a fan of the first movie.
It's definitely not, it's not better than the first movie, but I also don't think that it's
trying to be.
Yeah, I think it's just like, I don't think they're trying to top themselves. I think they're just trying to like, here's the next chapter in the lives of the Super Troopers guys. Like, it makes narrative sense if that matters, I guess. Like, I guess to some people, like, that won't matter. Like, they just want it to be funny and they don't give a shit. But, like, I think they do the story and the characters of Super Troopers, like, justice in this movie. And I think everything is, like, very true to, like, you know, the Super Troopers brand, if that means anything.
No, I would agree. And that's the thing, again, is that it feels, Anchorman 2 didn't feel like an Anchorman movie, but Super Troopers 2 feels like a natural continuation of those characters. You know, stuff has changed, but not really, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, like things have changed. Everybody's like a little bit more grown up, maybe a little bit more mature, but like,
Rabbit is still a rookie. Farva's still an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's still pretty much the same. Yeah. Time has passed, but you know, whatever.
Yeah. They were in crackling bacon.
Yeah. Crackling bacon. Ugh.
Well, let's take a break, and when we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other Broken Lizard films. Who is Carl Kolchak?
He's a reporter.
Now that is news, Vincenzo. News! And we are a newspaper. We are supposed to print news, not suppress it.
With the INS.
What's an INS?
Independent News Service, sir. Founded in 1904 by Enrico Paluzzi.
Who seems to have a nose for the strange and unusual.
Well, last year in Las Vegas, I uncovered a series of murders that turned out to have been committed by a vampire.
And what is the Kolchak Tapes?
It's a podcast.
All about Carl Kolchak.
What's a Kolchak?
The Night Stalker.
And where can you get it?
On iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at www.kolchaktapes.com.
As foolish a game as any that Gory the Ghoul could make up.
Movies have become a portal to a vast and growing pop culture universe, but you don't need to go over the rainbow to get your pop culture fix. Just head to Rainbow Comics, Cards, and Collectibles. They are your one-stop shop for comics, toys, posters, games, and more. Not a pop culture nerd? No problem. They have something for everyone, including a wide array of sports cards, collectible card games, even memorabilia. Stop by one of their 2 locations today. The flagship location at 3310 South Minnesota Avenue, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or their newest location at 1501 Pine Lake Road, Suite 17, Lincoln, Nebraska. Most importantly, don't forget to add them on Facebook for pop culture news, weekly live videos, and special events.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
Week after week, I'm mesmerized by the focus given great films and questionable films alike. But every episode is a learning and entertaining experience.
This is hands down the best movie podcast. They cover so many different genres across so many years, from obscure movies to blockbusters.
If there's only one podcast about movies and cinema that you listen to, make it this one.
The Projection Booth Podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
All right, we are back, and we are talking about Super Troopers 2. However, I do want to talk a little bit about, since we've never talked about them before on the podcast, of kind of the main Broken Lizards canon film, which would be Super Troopers Club Dread, Beer Fest, The Slammin' Salmon, and Super Troopers 2. Kind of where does Super Troopers 2 sit with you?
I don't know. That's hard to say because I've only seen Super Troopers 2 one time, and I've seen all the other ones probably a multitude of times, many times.
Including the Slammin' Salmon?
I've seen the Slammin' Salmon maybe once or twice.
Which I don't think it's a bad movie.
I don't think it's that bad either. I just think like it's It also wasn't great.
I think the problem is that the Slammin' Salmon is one of those movies that was trying to compete with a movie that I think is a little bit better, and that movie is Waiting. I think Waiting is like the quintessential restaurant movie.
Yeah, you can't top Waiting. And not that Slammin' Salmon was trying to top Waiting. I think they just unfortunately made a movie where the premise was like too close to another indie movie that already did that sort of like type of thing, but different and more effectively. You could say all day the semantics of it are different. The Slammin' Salmon is about a high-end restaurant or whatever owned by like a crazy ex-boxer guy, and Waiting is just like a shitty, kitschy, fucking, TGI Fridays kind of place or whatever.
Hilariously named and coincidentally, possibly ironically named Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
I don't think that's a coincidence, right?
Oh, no, not even a little bit.
There's no way, right?
No, it's not. Somebody saw Super Troopers and said, okay, we're going to make that restaurant Shenanigans. What's that place you like with all the shit on the walls?
No, it's...
you mean Shenanigans?
What's that place you like with all the goofy shit on the walls? Because the way he says the goofy shit on the walls... Oh my God. But that's the thing. Like you said, like Slammin' Salmon is just, it unintentionally competes with a movie that is
superior. I don't know. I'd have to say that like my favorite, I think by far, is Beer Fest. And then Super Troopers after that. And I also love Club Dread. Club Dread, I mean, like me being a horror fan, Club Dread is like a really smart spoof on like a horror movie while being really funny.
And what kind of standing on its own as a horror movie.
Yeah. Also like being an effective horror movie. I mean, it's not scary at all, but it's like, it does things effectively that a lot of horror movies don't do effectively. And this movie is like making fun of horror movies, which is great.
And it also has probably the best character in any of the Broken Lizard films, Coconut Pete, played by Bill Paxton. Who was obviously, if you've seen the film, was obviously inspired by Jimmy Buffett, who, get this, they screened the film for Jimmy Buffett, and he liked it so much, he wanted to sing Coconut Pete songs on tour. I'm not making this up. That's real.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's amazing, right?
That's fantastic.
But it's okay because it's Pina Coladaberg, and that bastard Jimmy Buffett stole the idea from me.
Pina Coladaberg. Oh,
sing Margaritaville. That scene is just hilarious.
Holy shit. God, I mean, it's a pretty short list, and Super Troopers is going to be closer to the bottom, but I don't think it's because of how good or bad it is. I think it's just because of how little times I've actually seen it and enjoyed it and sort of like digested it. And so it'll probably go Beer Fest, Super Troopers, Club Dread, Super Troopers 2, and then the Slammin' Salmon.
Yeah, I think my list is identical.
Yeah.
I mean, Beer Fest for me is everything I like.
It's one of my all-time favorite comedies of all time.
I mean, like Beer Fest for me, it's like it takes everything that I like about Super Troopers, which is... And this is what's missing in Club Dread, which knocks Club Dread down for me, and maybe it does for you too. The interplay between the five of them is what makes their movies so great. And in Club Dread, you don't get that. It's more about Kevin Heffernan, aka Farva, and Super Troopers' character. And
they're all split up in Club Dread,
and some of them you don't even get a sense of their character really. Specifically, Paul Soter, aka Foster from Super Troopers. You never even get a sense of his character in Club Dread.
Yeah,
or Jay Chandrasekhar either as Putman. And that's the thing. It's like the best part about their movies is the interplay between the five of them.
Yeah.
And when you take that out, it just, I mean, as much as a horror fan as I am, it just kind of falls flat.
Sure.
But Beer Fest for me, I think, is everything I love about Super Troopers, just with even smarter writing.
Yeah. It's playing ping pong and ding dang.
I say that so often. It's so bad. Oh my God. Or if I go out drinking with my buddies and one of them's like, I can't have any more to drink, I need to be driving. It's like, I remember my first beer. What's the other one? I opened up a bottle of Schnitzen Giggle Brew and look what I found inside. A rat's fetus. I mean, it's just, it's such a, it's
true, Sandy.
But is it, Grandpapa? Like, it's, oh my God.
I say shit like that all the time, yeah.
It's, everything about that movie is great. I mean, I have to give credit to Super Troopers where credit is due, because that is, without Super Troopers, we never would have Beer Fest.
That's true, yes.
And without Super Troopers 2, we may never have Pot Fest, which I hope is happening.
Yeah, we can only hope. We got to do it while Willie Nelson is still alive.
Well, and the Reddit AMA said if enough people went and saw Super Troopers 2, that could mean that Potfest could actually get made.
I'm surprised that Potfest never got made. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just like, maybe I personally like Beer Fest better than Super Troopers, but I feel like Beer Fest is just as good, if not better, of a movie. And I don't think it gets nearly the recognition that Super Troopers does.
But it is on Netflix. At least it was. So if you've never seen Beer Fest, you should check it out. If you've never seen Super Troopers 1, you should check it out. If you haven't seen Super Troopers 2, see it in theaters while you can. Support the Broken Lizards guys. I mean, look, the fact that they raised $2 million in 24 hours, I mean, they have a passionate fan base. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it should tell you all you need to know about these guys.
The best part of Super Troopers 2 is when all of a sudden it becomes a Japanese subtitled film.
For 5 seconds when he's on acid?
Yeah. Comes out of complete left field. And we get to see Brian Cox in like kabuki makeup.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was totally weird.
Yeah. Again, Super Troopers 2 is one of those movies that it so much feels like an extension of the first movie that most comedy sequels don't.
Yeah, it definitely, like, if you're looking for something different, if you wanted them to like flip it on its head, if you wanted them to do the fucking the Last Jedi-ification of Super Troopers, like, they did not. They played the hits and they gave the people what they wanted, and it was good.
And let's not forget, they got the people back as well that needed to come back, like Brian Cox.
Exactly. Yeah.
And some of the new people almost upstage them. Tyler Labine and Will Sasso as the Canadian Mounties. I mean, they're...
Oh my God. I love the Canadian Mounties. They were almost my favorite part of the movie. Those guys were so fucking funny.
Yeah. Including Hayes MacArthur.
So
I mean, they're
the top.
They're great.
And the way that those guys played off of each other or whatever, like when they're fucking watching hockey at their fucking house and the phone goes off and they're like, who the fuck calls during hockey night in Canada? Who the fuck even has a landline?
And that's the thing. They like work within the universe of Super Troopers, and they don't feel like they don't belong, which is what.
No, and all those guys are Canadian. So they cast a bunch of Canadian actors to play Canadians.
Hold on a second. Hayes MacArthur is not Canadian.
Is he?
Will Sasso is Canadian.
And I know Tyler Labine is Canadian.
Tyler Labine, who looks nothing like he used to.
He is so skinny now.
I know, right? From when I used to watch him on Reaper.
Oh, wow. Reaper way back.
Right. Like, he looks nothing like he did on Reaper.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been a while since Reaper. It's probably been like 12 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him in anything, so I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, the only one
I've seen him in some stuff, but it's been a while. Yeah.
The only one who's technically not Canadian is Hayes MacArthur. But yes, the other two are Canadian. But they're doing like a very like fake Canadian thing, like a very like stereotype.
They're doing over the top, like French Canadian hockey player, like out of control accents. And it's awesome. It works. It works great.
Yeah, it really does. So what would you give the film out of 5?
I'm going to give it a solid 3.5 out of 5. I think this movie's great. It's hilarious. I mean, will it stand up the test of time like, the first one did? Like, only time will tell. And I think that's probably the only reason why my score isn't higher, is just because this is one of those movies that, I don't know, it didn't exactly spark me as hard as the original movie did, but it's like, I don't know, it's like the first time you watch Indiana Jones, like when you watch that shit, like the next time you watch it, you know what to expect. And so like it's not quite as, memorable or powerful the second time around. And this movie is sort of the same type of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would give it like a 3.5. It's, again, if I were scoring the original Super Troopers, I would give it like a 4.5. So it's like a step down. But again, for me, this movie is actually actually good, which is the biggest surprise here, is that this movie gets made 17 years later and it doesn't fucking blow chunks like Anchorman did. I mean, Anchorman 2 is such a bad fucking movie that you don't even remember it. Yeah. Or Hangover 2, a movie that came out like 2 years after the first one or something, and it was like, oh, this is the same movie. Cool.
Literally the same movie.
Yeah. Someone gets lost in a town. We have to go find them. Hijinks ensue. Like, man, Todd Phillips and that creative team really stretching their fucking muscles. So.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, if you read stuff about the Broken Lizards guys, like, they all write together in the same room, the script for the movie. Yeah. Which, like, it makes sense when you think about, like, the comedy style of these five guys. It's like, it's a collaborative thing, which comes through when you watch the movie.
Yeah, and it's
good and bad.
It's the type of thing where it's like they all have to think that it's funny, otherwise it doesn't make it.
Right.
So,
and that allows the film to be a tad disjointed narratively.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but it's definitely, I mean, it's not as disjointed as like a fucking episode of Family Guy or something like that,
right,
where it's like literally the jokes don't make sense in context of anything.
Right. What do you think the film has on Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh, I'm sure it's bad. I'm sure it's like in the 30s.
35%. Now, I'm going to read this verbatim. Now, I'm not making this up. God. Okay. Meow that the wait for Super Troopers 2 is finally over. All but the most devoted fans mustache themselves while they waited so long for such cruel and tragic shenanigans.
Wow.
Hey, Rotten Tomatoes, turn that review sideways and stick it up your candy ass.
Whoever the smug piece of shit who wrote that needs to be fired immediately. Like, what the fuck? What an asshat.
Beyond smug.
Oh my god, they're just too fucking pretentious for their own goddamn panties.
I can't check out for an hour and a half and enjoy a movie. I mean, ultimately, it's a review aggregator website, but still. But still, like, you don't have to be a real prick about it.
Some snide asshole was like, all right, great. Like, I'm not the only one who thought this movie sucked. Like, fuck Super Troopers 2. Like,
and let's throw in some references, because fuck those fans of the movie.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck you, Toolbag, whoever wrote that.
Well, let's take a final break, and we'll play a preview for the next Culture Cast.
Jimmy George! $3,000 on Tyler. This was a little sticky.
$2,900. I don't want this one.
Why?
There's blood all over it.
Well, aren't you delicate? Tyler! Woo! Neptune High, right? Check it out right here! Go Sea Devils! You and me, Tyler! Yeah! Go Tyler! Go Tyler! Go Tyler! Go! Go Tyler! Go Tyler! Go Tyler! Whoa! Lincoln Tyler! Lincoln Tyler! Lincoln! Ow! My lucky number 7.
Gee, that's a new one, mister.
Well, you are sunshine on a stormy day. You should work in the casino.
Oh, I'm gonna. I mean, I wanna. This is a sort of, temporary.
Let me make a few phone calls.
Would you?
Yeah. Do you know how to deal blackjack?
No.
All right. Call me. I'm Rick. This goes straight to my special phone line.
Bye, mister. Bye.
Hello? Oh, yeah. No, hi, babe. No, I just had something stuck in my throat. Well, tell him to go to sleep. I'll talk to him in the morning. No, I can't. That's why. All right, tell him I love him and all. No, Angela, don't. Hi, Mikey. I know. No, I didn't forget. I haven't seen him yet, but as soon as I do, I'll ask him, all right? All right, I love you too. No, don't put mommy. Hi. I don't know, late. Later than that. Yeah, sure, if they're open. With extra cheese? I don't care. I'm not going to eat it. Pepperoni, sausage, Canadian bacon. Listen, why don't you just get the deluxe and save time, all right? Look, I got business. Call me back in 5. There he is!
You got a tester? It's all right. He's with me.
There's the man whose life I want!
You're late.
You know me, always upholding justice. When'd you get in?
Last night, I flew in from Norfolk with Powell and the secretary.
Hey, is that him?
Now, tuck in your shirt. I'll introduce you. Jesus, I get your front row seat. You show up looking like Don Ho.
Well, pardon my savoir-faire, Admiral. Why are you so uptight? It's fight night!
Running security tonight. I got a lot on my mind. Kirkland's high profile. He's all over the news and brings the nutcases out of the woodwork. He's a real publicity hound. Look at this.
The Olympic Games, and now the distinguished Secretary of Defense of the United States of America, Mr. Charles Kirkland.
That's right. On the next Culture Cast, we're going to be talking about the final film for Brian De Palma month. That movie is Snake Eyes. It stars Nicolas Cage, and it also features a 13-minute tracking shot, which is as insane as it sounds. However, until then, Eric, since it's been so long since we talked to you, what have you been up to?
Quite a bit. Dealing with life stuff, which is never fun. Westworld has now started again, so I watched the first episode of the new season. Do you watch that show? Have we talked about this?
I don't.
Okay, I am only going to say this one time. You're fucking up. Go watch it.
I watched the first episode. I have seen
all
seen the
of
first
the episodes.
It's one of those shows that I don't want to get drawn into the hype like I did with Game of Thrones.
Fuck Game of Thrones. Westworld is amazing.
I got drawn into the hype with Game of Thrones, and I regret it because the most recent season of Game of Thrones is so fucking bad.
Okay, there are 2 television shows that are a must-watch on my list of TV shows, and it is the first season of True Detective and the first season of Westworld.
Fair enough.
Go watch it.
That first season of True Detective, though.
Oh, yeah. I just rewatched it like, I don't know, a week or 2 ago, and goddamn.
It's amazing.
It's fantastic. So, yeah, Westworld started up again, and I'm super pumped because I'm into that shit, and I started to watch Lost in Space on Netflix, and it's bad.
I've heard it gets better.
I'm like 4 or 5 episodes in, and there's a lot of episodes. I think it's like 12 or 13, so I don't know. I guess we'll see. It's definitely different because like before it was just the Robinson family, and now it's like, spoiler alert, it doesn't really matter. It's them and then like a bunch of other people that have all like sort of gotten lost in space or whatever. The premise is still sort of interesting. Just some of the acting like really bothers me. So I don't know. We'll see.
It's got that guy who plays the villain in Die Another Day in it as the father of the Robinson family, right?
Yeah. Isn't he like British or something?
I mean, yeah, I would hope so.
I feel like his American accent is not that great.
Does he have an American accent in the show?
Yeah.
Oh, dearie. Oh, dearie.
And he's like a military guy, so he's like got that like sort of manly, like curt, like I'm the dad, like, you know, like I wasn't there for my kids because I was constantly on assignment, and my wife is always pissed at me and kind of hates me, and I only did this to save my marriage so that I could see my kids, like type of situation.
And there's an alien named Glorp?
No.
What a bummer. The yellow monkey is not in the show. Disappointed.
Yeah.
So it's not good, huh?
I don't know. So far, it's pretty just kind of, I don't know. It has a very like Sci-Fi Channel feel to it, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes sense.
Not that like everything from the Sci-Fi Channel is bad.
But everything from the Sci-Fi Channel except for Channel Zero is bad.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's I mean,
Channel Zero is the exception to the rule.
Yeah, it's the exception that proves the rule. It's you know, they put all their efforts into making this one thing great, and then the rest of it is just like kind of campy, half-assed, like
Megalodon versus Mechalazord, and it's like, oh dear.
All right, it's not that bad.
Featuring
but,
Coolio and Eliza Dushku. Okay, great.
Ugh.
Frankenfish featuring Coolio, a Sci-Fi Channel original film.
All right. Well, what have you been doing? You fucking. It was your birthday yesterday.
It's true. It was. Nothing. I'm on vacation technically, so God.
And you're still talking to me. Wow.
I wasn't even supposed to be here today.
I'm gonna go.
No, I don't really watch movies when I'm on vacation. Like really, I don't. Which is like that's what like a lot of people do on vacation, right? It's like, oh, I'm gonna relax and watch movies. It's like I don't want to watch anything.
No, I don't do that when I'm on vacation.
Yeah, but like you would know what I mean. Like a lot of people like, oh, I'm gonna watch movies and TV and like relax. It's like, whatever.
No, I do that all the time.
I do that, 90% of my day, even if I'm doing something. There's like a movie or a TV show on in the background. So like,
yeah.
So nothing. Just been relaxing, enjoying time back in Dallas. So gonna see Infinity War, I guess. I'm not rushing out to see it. Not that I'm not excited. I'm just not rushing out to see it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm excited to see it, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't really care, but I'm also like invested enough to be like, all right, God.
Well, you've seen all the movies, right?
I've seen every single one.
Okay. So have I. So, I mean, like you said, like, let me put it this way. Like, I mean, you're what? You're 30, right?
Almost.
Okay. So these Marvel movies have been around for almost a third of our lives. And for pretty much my adult life, there's been movies coming out.
Sure.
So this Infinity War movie is kind of like a capstone on my teenage years.
Sure.
It's like the culmination of it. So like people ask me like, it's going to be good, right? I'm like, I don't know. I would assume so.
I hope it's good. I mean, I don't know, dude.
Or they'll undo 18 movies in a decade of goodwill if it's bad.
I mean, listen, not one Marvel movie has been bad since like Thor 2.
Not one Marvel movie has been worse than the best DC movie.
Yeah. So it's gonna be fine. Like, and think about it this way, like
technically Venom is in there, but holy shit, that movie looks bad. So let's say no MCU movie has been bad.
Yeah, Venom doesn't count. That's a Sony movie, 100%.
Neither does Amazing Spider-Man or the X-Men movies, which are technically Marvel movies, but not connected universe films.
Sure, we're talking about MCU movies only. And in the MCU, I mean, I don't know, like think about all the movies we had leading up to the first Adventures of
the Adventures of the Avengers.
The Adventures of the Avengers. Like the first Avengers movie was fucking awesome. Like we were so stoked to see all the fucking, heroes that, we had just like gotten movies for, like all in one big movie. It was like sort of this awesome ensemble, Super Friends team, greatest hits, super group movie that we'd never had before.
And there was a lot of pomp and circumstance around it.
And there was, yeah. And this movie is sort of like,
deservedly so. I mean, that's the first time you'd ever seen. And that's the thing, like, and I know you understand this, but there are some people out there that, maybe the younger listeners don't get this. Captain America and Iron Man, they were not mainstream characters before 2008, 2009. Like, they really weren't. Like, people outside of, like, the people who read comic books didn't know who Iron Man and Captain America and Black Widow were, and Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't know who these characters were, or Thor. Like, they didn't know their backstory. But then you have the MCU come along, and it's like, you know who these characters are. There are people who love these characters and love the fact that, it's Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, or Jeremy Renner, or Chris Hemsworth. Before 2008, these characters weren't what they are now. And, like, you look at it now, and it's like, Iron Man is like part of the pop culture zeitgeist, and Marvel, these characters have become, the ones from the MCU have become like pop culture mainstays.
And the fact that they had the balls to start this whole thing with Iron Man of all characters just shows, like, I don't know how well put together all of this has been since the beginning. So,
but to be fair, Iron Man is essentially the Batman of the DC, of the Marvel universe.
Sure, he totally is.
Right.
But still,
to be fair, he's the one that most people can kind of, it's like the closest like analog to Batman, because like Batman is Batman is the most well-known superhero, I would say.
Because he's the gadget guy, and then, whatever. And
Iron Man comes along and he's the gadget guy.
Yeah.
But man,
his gadgets are fancier.
Yeah. Man, I don't foresee any way Infinity War is bad.
No, it's going to be good. It's
just how good.
How good is the question? Like,
is it?
How good is it going to be? Like, how much am I going to care about Infinity War 2 or whatever they're going to call it?
Which by the way, they haven't released the title yet, because apparently the title of the film ruins the third film, Avengers 3: Infinity War, which means
no. Avengers Infinity War 2.
Well, but what I was saying is Avengers Infinity War, Avengers 4, whatever the title is.
Right. Ruins the movie, or like has big spoilers for the movie.
Ruins Avengers 3 Infinity War. Because mind you, it is technically Avengers 3 Infinity War. Just like technically Avengers Age of Ultron is Avengers 2, I guess.
Yeah, whatever.
But but before we close this podcast out, just so we can have it on the record, we recorded this on April 23rd, 24th, so that we have this on the record. Who do you think is the one that dies. What characters do you think die in Avengers Infinity War? Because that's like the big point of contention here, right? Who dies? Because someone has to die, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you kill off the oldest. Maybe you kill off Tony Stark. Maybe you kill off Captain America. You know, if you kill off Captain America and then Bucky takes over as the new Captain America after everything that's happened.
So you think Captain America dies?
I'd say the two most likely to die are Tony Stark and Captain America.
See, I think...
Forget Captain America's real name.
Steve Rogers.
That's what it is.
See, here's the thing. I think it's either one or the other, but not both.
So I think it's going to be Paul Simon. I mean, Steven Spielberg. I mean, Roger Hammerstein.
Roger Rabbit.
I don't know. It's either Captain America or Iron Man. I don't know.
Pick one. Just pick one.
Iron Man. I think Iron Man dies, and I think Steve Rogers just goes away and hands off the mantle. He's like, I'm done saving this world. I need to go find myself in the universe.
I think Loki dies. I think that's pretty much a given. I think Loki dies.
Good. I'm sick of Loki. He should have died in the fucking first Thor movie.
Okay, hold on. He was great in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, but I'm like in the first Thor movie, Loki was like a bad dude, and now he's just comedic relief.
Well, he was a bad dude in Avengers too.
Yeah, he was a bad dude in the first Thor movie. He was a bad dude in Avengers, and like now he's just like
he's funny,
Thor's kitschy brother. Side character.
And he's living on borrowed time, right?
Yeah, he should have died a long time ago.
Theoretically, he
should have died in the Avengers.
Well, maybe Thor Ragnarok, like sacrificing himself. Something. Yeah. Give that movie a little bit of an emotional weight because it kind of lacked it. I mean, it was a great movie.
It did.
But it lacked an emotional weight.
It's a fun movie. Yeah.
I think Loki dies, and I think, between Captain America and Iron Man, I know that they keep saying that they're not going to use the time stone to like alter time.
Of course they are.
But right, like I feel like Spider-Man's going to die. And like they're going to go back and like alter time to stop that from happening. But I think
who perma dies.
Right, but that's the thing. But I think in doing that they have to alter it so like someone has to step into Spider-Man's place to die. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. Who perma dies?
I think Iron Man is the one who like saves Peter Parker from dying so that he dies instead.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna say,
but that makes total sense with the story that Spider-Man: Homecoming was telling.
Yeah.
So I think that Spider-Man dies in Infinity War, and then I think either maybe in that movie or in the second film or the fourth film, Iron Man dies, or maybe it's the same movie. I don't know.
Who knows?
Or maybe they all fucking die. I don't know.
God, I hope everybody
And you know
does.
what the great thing about this is for the first time in the history of Marvel movies, we don't know how this movie's going to go.
You know who I hope dies? Ant-Man. Fuck Ant-Man.
Fuck you. Ant-Man can't die because Ant-Man and the Wasp takes place after Infinity War.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, I believe so.
It's bad
Which
timing.
is why it comes out after Infinity War this summer. Because I'm assuming it's going to reference what happened in Infinity War and in some form or fashion, if that makes sense. Also explains why Ant-Man is not in Infinity War, because I think they're taking place concurrently, if that makes sense. So that's why like he's not in Infinity War, is because he's dealing with all this like other Ant-Man stuff. Dude, Ant-Man's great. I don't give a shit what you think.
I hate Ant-Man.
Yeah, well,
that's what I think.
You and everybody else who also hates Doctor Strange. So
I don't hate Doctor Strange. I hate Benedict Cumberbatch's fucking shitty American accent. But
well, yeah, his American accent is
trash.
Yeah, it's real bad. But as always, you can follow me on Twitter at CultureStash. You can follow Eric on Twitter at TychoMagnetics. You can follow the website on Twitter at CultureShocked. Head on over to the website, cultureshock.com, where you can find out more about today's episode. You'll find links over to iTunes where you can rate and review the episode. Make sure to download this. We're also on all podcatcher apps. If you want to help us out, download the Spreaker app, because that's where we're hosted now, Spreaker.com. Listen to us there. That would help us out. Patreon.com is where you can go to kick a couple dollars our way. We have a Ready Player One addendum if you want to hear people gush all over Ready Player One, if that's your thing. Big thanks, as always, to Eric and Wovoka for the intro music, and my buddy Justin Scott for the outro music. And make sure to check out the next Culture Cast.
Yeah. You know how we do, I'm just two-step, drink in my right hand, phone in my other hand, getting to the money, oh man, two-step, posted with the crew, yeah, you know how we do.
Hey, two-stepping, know what I'm saying? 1, 2, 1, 2, Benjamin, aka the Black T, you know what I'm saying? Catch me with my crew every day.